Hi there. Here are 25 more reasons to vote for Stephen Harper. If you think it's sweet of our leader to have personalized his workplace by renaming the Government of Canada the Harper government, then vote for Steve. If you think it's mavericky, as Sarah Palin would say, to be the first Prime Minister ever, not just in Canada, but in any Commonwealth country, to be found in contempt of Parliament, not once but 2 times, then vote for Steve. If you think it's shrewd to keep referring to the Speaker of the House, finding him to be in contempt as a plot by the opposition, then vote for Steve. If you think it's good for our democracy to try and block university students from voting, since most of them don't vote Conservative, then vote for Steve. If you think it's cozy to have the government reading over your shoulder by accessing your internet activity without search warrants, which is what he keeps pushing for, then vote for Steve. If you think it's invigorating to exercise your immune system and give your body a real good challenge by allowing more chemicals in the food we eat, then vote for Steve. If you think it's safe to not sign the UN declaration designated clean water a human right, so we don't have to deal with the 100 First Nations communities with water advisories, then vote for Steve. If you think it's straight shooting to brag about having one of the best economies in the world, then say we can't really afford to continue sending aid to some of the poorest countries in the world, then vote for Steve. If you think it's clever to say that you want to work with the opposition parties, then accuse them of bickering whenever they question or oppose you, vote for Steve. If you think it's beneficial to lose the confidence of our international allies and, for the first time ever, to lose our seat on the UN Security Council that we helped to create, then vote for Steve. If you think it's healthy to give uncontested control of our health system to a man that wrote that we should scrap the Canada Health Act, then vote for Steve. If you think it's honest to first deny that a recession is coming, then fight the calls for stimulus funding, then finally agree to the funding, and then take credit for the results of the funding, then vote for Steve. If you think it's far-sighted to put most of that stimulus funding money into traditional industries while other countries invest more of theirs in the new green industries and energy sources that the world needs, then vote for Steve. If you think it's helpful to shut down proven prison farm programs and axe other forms of rehab and crime prevention while throwing billions of dollars at more and bigger prisons, then vote for Steve. If you think it's impressive that a review of the world's parliamentary democracies found that ours now has the most power centralized in the Prime Minister's office, then vote for Steve. If you think it's okay to almost get kicked out of the Commonwealth like South Africa was over apartheid, thanks to how we're holding up global efforts to deal with climate change, then vote for Steve. If you think it's calming to have news reports about global warming drop by 80% because our world-class government climatologists are no longer allowed to talk to the media about it, then vote for Steve. If you think it's slick to illegally overfinance your election campaign by shuffling money in and out of dozens of ridings and then reward the scheme's masterminds with Senate seats, then vote for Steve. If you think it's reassuring to fire the head of our Nuclear Safety Commission as soon as she starts saying troubling things about the state of one of our nuclear reactors, then vote for Steve. If you think it's exemplary to have a top aide who's been convicted of fraud 5 times and is under investigation for illegally lobbying the government, then vote for Steve. If you think it's constructive to abandon the Kelowna Accord squandering all the goodwill and the years of hard work that led to this landmark agreement with the First Nations, then vote for Steve. If you think it's audacious to pre-accuse the NDP of financial follies when you and the previous Conservative government have racked up the biggest debts in Canada's history, then vote for Steve. If you think it's advisable, given our record debt level, to commit $29 billion or more to purchasing 65 unproven fighter jets, then vote for Steve. If you think it's lucid to increase penalties for marijuana offenses, which, given that it is proven to be safer than alcohol and tobacco, are now only offenses because our laws are outdated, then vote for Steve. If you think it's brilliant to promise fixed election dates, then manipulate the opposition into triggering an election when the polls suggested it was to your advantage, then vote for Steve. And if you still don't want to vote for Steve and you don't want him to get a majority, you can go to projectdemocracy.ca and find out which candidate in your riding is most likely to be the Conservative candidate. Again, get out and vote. Do it for yourself. Do it for the country. You'll feel better about it. Thanks again for your time.